Good morning, North Tarrant Church. My name is Scott Johnson. I'm the lead pastor here at North Tarrant, and I'm so delighted that you've chosen to join us this morning. Hey, we're going to be here for roughly about 45 minutes as we get the chance to engage in a conversation that we believe is going to be super helpful. And then following that up, we're going to be joined by our band from North Tarrant Church, and as we get the chance to think about and to reflect upon songs that bring hope and that ultimately can affect the lives that we lead. You see, at North Tarrant, our mission is simple. Our mission is we want to inspire people to follow after Jesus. I firmly believe that in following after Jesus, that you will find that your life is better. That you're filled with peace and joy and contentment. And not only is your life better, but you find yourself better at life, that you navigate the challenges of life with greater confidence, even though sometimes there's greater difficulties at play. Well, North Tarrant, we are so delighted that you joined us this morning. And I would love for you, especially if you're in the North Fort Worth area, next Sunday morning at 10 a.m., we're going to be at Lizzie Curtis Elementary School. And we would love for you and your family, your neighbors, your friends, we would love for you to come and join in. We've got environments for preschool, for elementary, for middle school, for high school, as well as for our adults. And so our hope and our prayer is that in the very near future that we get the chance to connect with you, to engage, and hopefully to continue to help you as you are taking steps in your faith journey. Now, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to hand it over to one of our teaching pastors, Andy Stanley, as he continues us through the morning. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, the rule number 3 is this. I want you to choose it when you're traveling, right? You choose a destination. You don't just travel, right? You choose a destination and borrow a map. This is kind of a 2-part thing. Choose a destination and borrow a map. Here's what I mean by choose a destination. Everybody ends up somewhere in life. I mean, you don't, goals, no goals, destination in mind, no destination. Time just goes by. And if you've got the health to endure your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, your 90s, maybe you become a centenarian, you live to be 100 years old. Everybody ends up somewhere in life. The win, just humanly speaking, and the win in terms of being a Jesus follower, the win is to end up somewhere on purpose, right? And just as in a long road trip, there are multiple legs, the first day we went here, second day we went there, third day here, stayed 2 days there, fourth day. It's just as there are multiple legs on a road trip, there are multiple seasons in life, right? Multiple seasons in life. And it is so important in each season of life to determine your destination in that season. Now, you've all already done this. We've all already done this. I mean, you got in elementary school, your parents said, your destination is to get out of the 5th grade and to get into middle school. So it's like, okay, you got out of 5th grade, middle school. Then you got into middle school and your parents said, and you decided, I can get out of middle school. My destination is going to be to show up the correct fall in 9th grade. So this whole idea of setting a destination for each season, we grow up with some, sort of a paradigm or a template that teaches us that. But once we get out into the work world and the job world, it's easy to lose sight of the fact there are still seasons of life. There's single season and there's married season and maybe first marriage and there's a gap and the second marriage and there's kids and there's grandkids. I mean, there's all these seasons. In each season of life, you need to choose some vague or general or maybe specific sense of a destination. It's important to choose that in each life. Determine what you want your life to look like in each season or in this season. Here's why, again, this is so important. Obviously, you don't want to drift. Nobody wants to drift. And if we don't decide, here's the thing. If we don't choose what we want this season to look like or what we want to look like at the end of the season, if we don't choose, circumstances and people and life in general, they just decide for us. Because the days keep clicking by. Life is a highway. Another day, rear view mirror, no reverse, another day. So why wouldn't we just decide? Because again, life is connected. This season leads to the next. If I don't set the correct destination for this season, I won't be prepared for the next one. This is what wisdom dictates, that I am thinking about this season, not simply in light of what's right ahead of me, but right in front of me, but ultimately what's ahead of me, because one season leads to the other. Each season builds on the other, right? And you know this. Wishing Wishing won't get you there. Someday I want to meet someone. Someday I'd like to be happily married. Someday I'd like to have kids. Wishing won't get you there, right? Someday I want to be successful financially. Someday I want to go to graduate school. Someday. That's a wish. That's not a plan. It goes back to what I call the principle of the path. We've talked about this in the past, that direction, not intention, determines our destination. This is true when you're driving. This is true when you're living. It's the direction, not the intention, that determines your destination, okay? You can drive north with the intention of going to Key West. You will never get to Key West. I don't care what your intentions are, right? You can intend and you can pray and you can trust God, and you will end up in Canada, okay? It just doesn't, intention is almost irrelevant. Intention should lead us quickly to some sense of direction. So in every season of life, we need to choose what the destination is, not for our entire lives, but for this season, because the seasons are connected. And if we're not prepared for the next season in this season, then when we get to the next season, well, we're just not prepared. Again, it goes, I mentioned this a minute ago. You only get to do your 20s one time. You only get to do your 30s one time. You only get to do your 40s one time. You only get to do a first marriage one time. You only get to do the raising that son of yours just one time. And again, you'd be better prepared for the second or the third child, but that first one, that daughter, we only get to do this one time. Again, 2 rear view mirrors, no reverse. My dad has had a sort of a version of this same statement that he had in his office. I don't know if he made it up or he found it somewhere, but as a kid, you remember things in your house, and this is one of the things I remember. Little plaque that said this: discipline, not desire, determines our destiny. And do you know what discipline is? Discipline is in this season, I want to make sure I'm disciplined enough in this season to prepare myself for the next season, because life is a highway and there's another destination coming down the road. So decide now so that when you get to the end of this season, you'll look back on what you need to look back on to ensure that you're ready for the next season. When Sandra and I had little kids, they're all this little and smaller. At one point we had 3 in diapers for about a minute. And then Sandra didn't like me to tell that story, but anyway, our oldest, we just decided, you're potty trained, and we just kind of moved on. And he eventually was, but you just can't, 3 in diapers, it's just too much. Anyway, so in that season, it's so busy, like I need to tell you that. There's just stuff coming and going. And we're getting, there's always more opportunities than time, and there's always more friends than time, and there's always more hobbies than time. And so we just decided in that season, we came up with a list. We called it our no for now, but not forever list. No for now, but not forever list. In other words, here are some categories of things we're just not gonna do. We're not gonna, next Thursday, can you do this? Let me check the calendar. That just drives you crazy. We just decided there are some categories. I'm not gonna tell you what they were, because you gotta come up with your own categories. But sometimes in a season of life, because of what you want to accomplish and because of what's most important in that season, you just have to prioritize and say, you know what? This is not a bad thing. This is just a no thing for now. And then when we get through this season, it's a yes. No for now, but not no forever. Those are the kinds of decisions you make once you've decided what is most critical in this season of my life. When you're in school, you gotta do that. When you're starting a new job, you gotta do that. When you're beginning a new relationship, you gotta do that. When you're beginning a new marriage, you have to do that. When you're raising kids, no for now, but not forever, because of the destination I've determined for myself in this season of life. Now, the second part of this is borrow a map. And here's what I mean by that. Somebody has already been to where you're hoping to arrive, right? Somebody's already been there. They've been there and they've done that, and they've done it poorly or they've done it well. But somebody has traveled this road before. And here's the thing, and this is kind of insulting, but when you transition into a new season of life, you don't know what you're doing. How could you? You've never done it before. The ultimate example of that is, we had our first child, and we stayed a couple nights in the hospital, and the nurse comes in and says those awful things. This is what she said. She said, she smiled when she said it, but it was terrible. She said, Mr. Stanley, if you'll pull the car around to the front entrance of the hospital, I'll bring Mrs. Stanley down and Andrew, and you can go home. And I thought, by ourselves? I don't even know how to change a flat tire. You're sending me home with a baby, right? Would you come home? Is there anyone who could come home with us? I mean, do you remember this? It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, in other seasons of life, we just think we know what we're doing, but how could we possibly know? Every season of life is different. So the wisest thing you could do is find somebody and borrow their map. Another illustration, right now, our small group, our community group, we've all been married 30 to 33 years, everybody in our community group. And so it's hard to decide, what are we gonna study? And you know what the felt need was? The felt need was, how do we parent adult children? Now, for some of you, you're thinking, is that even a thing? It's a thing, isn't it? All of you parenting adult children, isn't it a thing? It's like, you're thinking, I thought parenting ended when they went off to a job or off to college. No, it's just another season of parenting. So we don't know what we're doing. And after our first couple of meetings as a small group on this topic, we realized, we don't know what we're doing. And we found a book. Somebody has written a book on how to parent adult kids, like kids who have left home and are getting married. And so that's what we're studying. You know why? Because we don't know what we're doing. But somebody has written a map and somebody has investigated. And this is what I'm talking about. You need to find somebody's map, okay? And the other way to do this is you know some people who've kind of down the road from you and sort of accomplished what you hope to accomplish, either professionally or academically or maybe marriage and family. And here's my suggestion. You get their email address and you email them and you don't say, will you mentor me? Don't ever ask anyone to mentor you, okay? You send them 3 questions. You say, you know what? My wife and I, or hey, I've just got into this new job, or I've just moved to the city or whatever, and I have 3 questions. Here's the 3 questions. Would you meet me for coffee, or I'll buy you dinner if you'll just answer these 3 questions? And essentially what you're saying is, I want your map. Now don't say I want your map, because they're like, what? Okay, so they'll think you're just a stranger, and then we already covered that, okay? They'll think you're strange. So this is your way of saying, tell me what you know. And here's the thing about people who are a season ahead of you in life. And I'm a season ahead of some of you. We don't know how much we know until someone asks. We have small groups with young married couples or newlywed couples. And it is so fun as somebody who's been married a long time to drop into one of those groups. Because you show up, and Sandra and I spent a whole year one time, instead of doing our own small group, we just went from group to group to group with the young married couples. And the first time, we were like so scared, like, oh, what are they gonna ask? And when we got in the car afterwards, we thought, we know a lot. We just know a lot. You just don't know what you know until somebody who doesn't know begins to ask you questions, okay? So one of the best things you can do is you can reach ahead a generation and say, hey, show me your map. Show me your map. You might be familiar with what's called the Vernon Law. You may have heard this before, even though you didn't know it was called this. Here's what the Vernon Law is. That experience is a hard teacher because it gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. Experience is a hard teacher because, oh no, I failed the test and now I realize what I should have known. The only way to avoid this is to get ahead and invite information, authors, or people into your life in this season, so when the test comes, you will already have had the lesson. And acknowledging, come on, you know this, acknowledging what you don't know and inviting somebody into that space where you just aren't exactly sure, that's not weakness. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's maturity. It's a sign of wisdom. Again, the author of Proverbs puts it this way. Listen, he says, listen to counsel. Listen to counsel. Now, don't raise your hand or elbow anybody, but some of us, guys, it is so hard to take counsel from other people. It's an ego thing. It's a pride thing. I am as guilty as anybody else. I just have to just exhale. Don't bow up. Don't power up. Don't say, let me tell you what I know. Just shut up, Andy, and just listen. Listen to counsel and accept discipline. You know what this means? It means accept the fact that you're wrong. If you don't accept the fact that you're wrong, you will continue to be what? Wrong, right? My goal in life is to never learn anything new and nobody wants to end up there. So he says, listen to counsel, accept discipline, that you may be wise. And listen to this, proverbial promise. You'll be wise the rest of your days. Here's what that means. You'll be wise in this season and prepare in such a way that you're ready for the next season. You'll be wise for the rest of your days, because if the pattern, this is a pattern and a habit, if the pattern and the habit of your life is to be open to the counsel and the wisdom of others, even people who aren't as smart as you, even people who aren't as accomplished as you, even people who aren't as successful as you, and even people who aren't as educated as you. I just covered all the reasons that many of us are like, I can't listen to her, I can't listen to him. What have they ever accomplished? Well, wait, what? He says, just listen to counsel and you'll be wise for the rest of your day. So choose a destination in this leg of the journey or in this season and borrow a map, and perhaps you'll get where you're going you get there faster and with less regret.
We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. Yeah, we shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross, then He rose up from that grave. And my God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Sing that with me again. And we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet.